So we're going to be looking at effective business communication. Now, again, this is a little bit of a long one, so we'll probably get used to quite long units on this course. I think we've got 6 learning outcomes. Let's just double check. Yep, 6 learning outcomes. So I'll quickly go through what the learning outcomes are, just to show you what we'll be looking at, and then we'll come back onto learning outcome 1. So the first learning outcome is understand key principles and methods of verbal communication in business contexts. Oops, there, I've gone too fast. I always do this. Come on. There you go. Number 2 is understand key principles and methods of written communication in a business context. Learning outcome 3 is understand key principles and methods of non-verbal communication in a business context. Learning outcome 4, know how to run an effective business meeting. Number 5, know how to make an effective presentation. And number 6 is know how to deal with problems faced by organizations. And again, we've got that indicative content at the bottom where it just tells you what each section should have in. So it's always good to just double check when you're doing your work. Now back to learning outcome 1. So we've got a few points we're going to be going over. So 1.1 is explain the importance of clear communication and impact of unclear communication to business. 1.2, describe the key elements of effective listening. 1.3, explain the purpose of different types of questioning. 1.4, explain the different communication styles. You know what, Victoria, I think I'm getting tired talking with all these questions that are in here.
I feel like a lot of times they repeat themselves a little bit.
It does. Oh goodness, and it does, and you'll see that if someone is explain, one is describe, what is communicate, you know, so they're very similar to each other.
I know, very. When I was doing my assignment,
yeah,
I felt like I was answering the same question in different fronts.
Exactly, repetition is a really big thing through all these. But then it's just that one thing that will change it. So rather than explain, sometimes it'll be an assess or an evaluate. So it just, you're just sort of repeating yourself throughout. 1.5 is explain how communication can be used to develop a rapport. 1.6, describe the factors that have important telephone calls. And then we've got our merit questions and distinctions, which we'll go through once we get to our PowerPoint. So there it is. Make it big. Oh dear. Let me get myself loaded up. So the aim of today's unit is to help you to develop good communication skills, especially when you're working in business. So this unit that we're going to be doing is going to be looking at your written skills, your oral skills, and all the different type of communication that you're going to need within business itself. So on to 1.1, and remember, Victoria, if there's any questions you want to ask, don't think that you're interrupting me. Please ask, okay?
Okay.
So explain the importance of clear communication and the impact of unclear communication. So we're just going to look at the roles and responsibilities that we have as an impact on communication within a group or within a company. So when communication is clearer, you know what you're actually responsible for, what you can expect, what needs to be done, and what everybody's role and responsibilities are within their team. So we've got the importance of clear communication. So when we communicate, it will help you to draw on a wealth of resources, as we're saying. So if you're within a group environment, you can all speak to each other. You'll have different experiences, different skills, and you can speak to each other and sort of gain from each other. You might have an issue or a customer you're trying to deal with or a client you're trying to deal with that you're not 100% sure how to go about with. And maybe one of your colleagues or your team members can help you out with that. But if you had bad communication, that'll just produce a a burnout. It'll be where you don't actually want to go into work. You don't want to, you'll dread speaking to certain people, or you won't even know exactly what's going on. So when you communicate in a clear fashion, it really helps because it'll give you a chance to hit your goals and your targets a lot faster because you know exactly what's going on, don't you? It's very important. Yeah. If you don't know what's going on, then there's no point of, you'll probably end up saying, I'm not bothered. So how do we do clear communication? So here I've got some steps down on here. So we're going to take the appropriate steps. And I think, Zanik, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you guys now through my phone.
Oh, sorry.
Fantastic. No problem. Victoria, this is Zanik. She's going to be she's joining us. Well, she's thinking of joining us, and she's just doing a little bit of shadowing on here.
Oh, hi.
Hi everyone.
So, Zanik, we've only got a single student today, Victoria. We do have a few more students on this course, but they've not been to the lessons. Victoria has been fantastic throughout. She submitted an amazing piece of work, which, Victoria, if you don't mind, I might share with Zanik just to show her how nice and structured it was.
Yeah. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Victoria. Nice to hear you. I can't say nice to meet you, but nice to hear you.
Nice to hear you too.
Brilliant. So we'll carry on to here. So what are the steps to take for clear communication? So I'll put them down. They're quite simple and realistic things that you'll do on a normal basis anyway. So take appropriate steps. So when you're talking to somebody, make sure that you're promoting an environment where they feel comfortable to talk. Now, if you're meeting somebody for the first time, if you just go straight into business, it's not going to work, is it? You need to go there and have a bit of small talk, speak to them, get to know them, just make them feel comfortable. So take a couple of steps, a few minutes, just to introduce yourself and let them know what's going on. Then when you're speaking to co-workers, make sure that you have clear, defined goals and expectations so that your colleagues or your team members know exactly what you're talking about, what they're expected to do, and what steps they actually need to go away and take. Because if you don't do this, you'll have had an hour meeting with them and they'll go away and they'll be like, I have no clue what I'm doing. So it's good to make sure that you've defined exactly what you want, what the goals are, and what you're expecting. I'm really bad for this. I'll go into a meeting or I'll go into a place and I'll be like, yep, and I'll nod.
Oh my God, I do that all the time.
Exactly. And I'll walk away and I'll be like, I don't know what's going on.
It's such a bad habit. And I don't even think before I say yes. And then I go home and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know anything. I don't understand it.
You're probably like me where you phase out, don't you? You sort of zone out.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. It is, sometimes it's too much information, you're like, So
if you have a habit of like making notes, and then at least the brain stays occupied then.
Exactly.
And little bullet points, even if it's like scribbles that you guys understand yourselves.
That's a good point, Zanik. It is, make sure you have a little jot something down. At least you're like, oh, this is what it was about, and feel like you're talking about
like
something.
If I put a note down, then I completely miss out on what I'm hearing as well.
Yeah, sometimes you distract yourself, don't you? So it's one of those catch-22 situations where, do you do this or do you sit here and zone out?
Yeah, I feel like something like this is a good thing for me because then there's questions and lessons and recorded lessons so I can actually go back and look at it.
It's always good to have that thing to fall back on, isn't it? So you can...
Definitely.
Yeah.
It helps.
Yeah. Oh, it's moved on. So my laptop's been very slow. I've got another one ordered. I've been telling you about this for a while, Victoria, haven't I? So I have ordered another one. It's just when it arrives, we'll see.
Okay. So
stay on message, and with this, make sure that you don't repeat things just to speak. Or I'm quite bad at this, is where if I see there's a gap or it's gone silent, I'll go and I'll say this information in a different way again. So just try to keep succinct and stay on what you're actually saying. And then empathize, respect the person you're talking to. Don't talk down to them. It doesn't matter if they're working as a cleaner or the CEO of the company. It doesn't matter if they're as well dressed as you or not, or if they're not looking their best at that time. Empathize and be respectful. Give them the message you want. Help them solve their problems. If there's something they've got like childcare or financial issues, listen to what's going on and then carry on in that way. A few minutes listening to your colleagues or your co-workers is not going to hurt you. It'll make them feel important and respected, and they'll probably want to work a lot better. Don't interrupt. Now, when you're interrupting your customers or your colleagues, is quite a sign of disrespect. Now, it really depends on who you're speaking to. I don't mind it when I actually encourage my students to ask me questions throughout. But we're doing a teaching environment. So in this environment, it's perfectly fine for you to pip in and say, can you tell me about this? Or I don't understand that. That's okay. But when you're speaking to a colleague or especially to a client, let them say what they're saying and then ask them to clarify any information you may not have understood. Be polite. So anybody that might have less expertise than you or work experience or technical expertise, just be polite with them. Don't talk down to them again. Not everybody has the same skills or communication levels and so on. So if you're speaking to a customer or colleague who have different type of expertise than you do, they've come to speak to you for a reason. They might have a problem with their laptop. They might have an issue with a deal that they're trying to do. They've come to you to get some help. So when you talk down to them, they won't want to come back to you again. So just be polite with them, listen to what they're saying, and then help them. Now, what is the impact of confused communication? So what I mean with confused communication is when you're speaking to each other, but you're not actually understanding what's going on. So within this type of communication, you get something called insufficient communication, where that communication where you've talked, you've just filled things in with words, but nothing of importance has actually been said. It's not been conveyed to each other. You don't know what your targets or your goals are. You walk in just as confused and you're walking back even more confused. So at the beginning, there was no point of that conversation at all. Now, this type of communication can affect you quite negatively. It'll affect your efficiency and your motivation. Employees don't know what's going on. They have no idea what the targets are. They have no idea what they're meant to be doing. And it'll decrease their productivity and the business performance because they're going to going and chasing other people to try and find out what's going on, what they can do, and it's wasting time. And then the last section on this, impact of unclear communication. So again, it's the same as what we just talked about. You're not giving enough information. You're not engaging with your employees. It's quite broken communication where not much of importance is being passed on. So if your employees don't know what's going on or they're unclear about their job roles, they're not having job satisfaction, they'll probably end up leaving your company, or they might just say, nah, I'm not coming into work today because I have no clue what I'm actually meant to be doing there. So having clear communication is very important, and when you do have unclear communication, it can impact your productivity, your efficiency, and your retention rates, how many people you'll actually keep at work as well. So, would you have any questions you'd like to ask Victoria?
No. I get it.
Fantastic. It's just my wonderful teaching skills, isn't it?
Yeah.
So 1.2, describe the key elements of effective, I had it covered then, effective listening. So why is listening important? Now, what we forget in communication is that 50% of communication is listening, 50% is talking. When we communicate and we go off on a tangent and we just start talking, we forget there's another person there and that maybe they want to say something. We'll overtalk on them, we won't listen to what they're saying, and we'll just try and get our stories out. Now, I'm extremely bad at this with my sister-in-law. She'll be giving me information, but I'll be so busy passing on my own woes and problems that I'll not have heard a single thing she said. So that's the only person I'm like that I'm like this with, because I'm so comfortable with her. So I think you do sort of pick and choose people that you might over talk on.
Yeah.
I think to add in there, Afsha, listening, I think is more important when you're communicating, in my experience, on a professional level. Like if you're in a workplace, it's quite important. I think it's more important than getting your word across is the other way around. I know you're saying 50%, which is correct, but I find it, and everybody's different, that listening for me is more important on a professional level when I'm in work.
So why do you find listening more important, Sonique? What does it give you? What benefits?
I feel as if like I absorb that information more than giving it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I feel as if I need to. It's all about respect, isn't it? And then when the other person's talking, they understand that I'm listening carefully, respectfully to them, and making them feel important. And then I'm absorbing that information. And then vice versa, when I'm then talking and they're listening, they'll do the same for me.
It's mirroring that good behaviour, aren't they? Because they're seeing you as a role model, and they're saying, yeah, that's fantastic. And I bet with that listening skills, you're able to. Sorry, Victoria. I was just going to say that you're able to plan and adapt for what they actually need, aren't you?
Yeah. So I like it when I'm just quiet and then I'm listening, because I know that I don't need any other noises around me, especially mine. So my thing has to wait until I've listened, and then I'll have my turn. And I find that sometimes quite difficult with other people. They like to interrupt and get it, and that can be disrespectful as well.
Mm-hmm. So, Victoria, what were you wanting to say?
Pardon?
Did you want to say something?
I was going to say, when you listen as well, you get a lot of information. So, for example, because we're doing business management, it's about management. Mm-hmm. So, as managers, if you listen to your employees, you get a lot of information, and you know how to, as you said, plan it and what to do with that information. For example, if you keep talking, you don't know what your employees need. Yeah. But if you listen 100%. And stuff,
exactly,
you can actually, you know what your employees need. You can do a good job
with that. We've discussed exactly why listening is important. But I'll go over some of the points that I've got on here. They're not that many. So again, like I said, a lot of us can't listen long enough to form your own responses. So sometimes you zone out. It's too much information is being done. We stop listening.
That's so me.
And then within this, sometimes why does this actually happen? It's because we've all got information that we need to share. We've got our own opinions. Sometimes we'll end up jumping in. You'll get emotional, or if there's a conversation that is maybe attacking you personally, or there's something going on, you want to sort of jump in and say, no, this is not what's happening, and you don't want someone else to talk. You're trying to do it yourself. But again, listening is extremely important, especially within business. And this is what we'll focus on. Oh, believe me, we all do. So we've got 7 keys to effective listening. Just be attentive and be relaxed. Be there. So if you're listening to someone and you're looking at your watch, or you're fiddling with your phone, or you start making a timetable for what you're going to do next, putting down, this is what I've got, then you're not paying attention. You're focused on something else. Maintain eye contact and face the other person. Now, with eye contact, there's a few things that can happen. Now, eye contact can show that you're listening. It can show that you're paying attention. It can show aggression. It can show attraction. So there's a lot of different things. So my tip for eye contact is make regular eye contact, but don't stare someone down, or even have your body face towards them. Mm-hmm. Yes, Nick?
No, Afsha, I didn't say anything.
Didn't you? Okay.
I'm listening, Afsha.
Okay, brilliant. And then number 3 is listen and paint a picture. So if somebody's telling you something technical, and they're saying, oh, I got home and I had this DVD player and then I put this in and it didn't work, you can sort of paint a picture of what they're doing. So anything that it's nice to have an association of pictures or an image in your head to go with what somebody's talking to you about. It helps you to actually focus. Number 4, don't interrupt. So the way to make choppy communication is by interrupting. So especially when you're talking in a meeting or a business sort of environment, don't interrupt your clients or your customers. Let them get out what they're trying to say. Again, after they've finished, when they've paused, then ask them a question, because when they're pausing or when they're stopping talking, it means that it's your turn now. We want you to talk. So if you're not 100% sure, ask them a question. Now, what I say to some of my other students when I'm teaching this unit within, say, healthcare, and so I always say, repeat the question. So you could say, so what I understand is, and then you can repeat what they've said in your own words, and then they can say to you, yes, that's exactly what I mean, or they can say, no, that's not what I meant, and they can clarify it. So in the end, the goal is just you making sure you've actually understood what they've been saying to you. Now, number 6 is keep an open mind. So don't make any judgments based on what the person might look like. And unfortunately, we do jump to conclusions and to judgments, and we shouldn't, but we do. So try and keep an open mind. Some things that they might be saying to you might not agree with you on a personal level. But again, you're in a business environment. You're not there to judge someone. So just find out what's going on and speak to them in accordance to that. And then the last point is try to feel what the other person is feeling. Empathize with them. They might be upset. They might be angry. It might have been an issue that's happened. I remember for my daughter's 12th birthday, I ended up ordering her a little instant camera, and I ordered it to go and click and collect at my local store. I went there and it wasn't there, even though they said that it was going to be. And I remember phoning the customer services, and I must have dealt with the worst person possible. And they were just quite off-putting. They kept on cutting me short. They weren't bothered. They weren't interested. And they kept on putting me through to different departments saying, they'll deal with you, they'll deal with you. So it's quite good to make sure that you try and put yourself in that other person's shoes. They might be upset. They might be anxious. They might have something going on. So try and empathize.
Yeah. I said personally, yeah. Like it's not. I feel like a lot of times people think it's an attack on them, when it's like a lot of times, most of the time, it's a personal issue with them.
No, it's true, especially when you're feeling quite upset or you're anxious about, oh, where's this thing gone? I've paid so much money. You're going to charge me for it, or anything in that type of situation. You do feel like everything is a person attacking you, depending on. Yeah. So, Victoria, do you have any comments or any questions you want to ask for 1.2?
No.
Okay, yeah, let's go on to 1.3. So we're going to explain the purpose of different types of questioning. So why do we do questions? Why do we ask these questions? Now, questions are there to help you with certain things. They're there to help you find out what a person's feeling is, what their beliefs are, what their opinions, attitudes, and ideas are. So you can actually understand that person. They might have a problem. You might want to find out what that problem is. It's sort of like when you go into you're in a shop and you've got a customer coming back and returning something to you. You might want to find out exactly why it's being returned, what the reason is. It might be used, it might not be used. So you asking them a couple of questions. When did you buy it? What's the problem with it? And so on. Unless you're Argos. Argos just take everything back without question. So then you have open and closed questions. So there are open and closed questions, and there's a difference between these. Now, open questions are questions that you will get long answers to, and I'll show you some examples. And the closed question is somewhere where you might go a simple sentence or even something like a yes or a no. So when you ask an open question, you're asking for a long response. You want detail out of it. And these open questions actually help you to get to know the opinions, ideas, or exactly the root of the problem. So an open question is questions that need long answers. They have answers that are normally very descriptive. These questions will begin with how, why, explain, or describe, and they can take a few minutes to answer. A closed question is questions that need a short answer. So I could ask you, what's the weather like today, Victoria, and what would you answer me?
Oh, it's just gloomy. That's it. Like, it's not a long question.
Yeah. Hot, cold, gloomy, muggy, and that's it. So
yeah.
These answers are often quite short and they're factual, so they're based on facts. So you could just turn around and say, oh, it's 22 degrees today, it's hot or it's cold. And then these questions will begin with is, would, do, what. So they're quite directed and they can be answered very quickly. So on this, you've got your open questions, which take a long time to answer, and your closed questions, which can be done quite quickly. Now, on here, you've got to decide what type of situation you want an open or a closed question. If you're just wanting to find out basic information, like a yes or a no, then like, is this broken? Yes. Or you could ask, how did this break? And then you'd have a longer question there, an answer, sorry, there. So that section was just quite simple. Why do we question? Do you have any questions?
No.
So let's go on to 1.4. Explain the different communication styles. So there's lots of communication styles, but we're going to go over these four: aggressive, passive-aggressive, passive, and assertive. So we've got passive. So a passive person is emotionally dishonest. They're indirect. They're quite inhibited. They self-deny. They blame. And then they can be quite apologetic. And what they think is that other people's rights have take over their needs, that everybody else has got a better right than they have. So Victoria and Zanique's rights, that is what a passive person would say.
Okay.
A passive-aggressive person is slightly different. So they are still emotionally dishonest. They're still indirect. They're still self-denying at first. But then they can self-enhance themselves, so they can say, right, I'm going to make sure that I get ahead of everyone else. So I would probably, if we were working together and I was a passive-aggressive person, I'd make sure that I walked all over you to get to the position that I wanted, and I wouldn't care. So I wouldn't care what repercussions you face, as long as I got to where I wanted to get to. And then what a passive-aggressive person makes clear is they're subtly making clear that my rights are better than yours. My rights are more important than your rights. But they do that in a very subtle way. They're not just, shouting out and saying, I'm better than you or I'm more important than you. Then you have an aggressive person. Now, they can be very honest, but they can be inappropriately honest. They don't need to be that direct. They're expressive, they can attack, they can blame each other, they can be quite controlling, and again, they're doing that self-enhancing, so they're walking over other people just to better themselves in their position. And they make it very clear, very boldly, and they will more or less directly say that my rights are better than yours, I'm more important than you, who are you, that type of person. And then we have an assertive person. Now, they're appropriately honest. So they can be honest, but they're not being rude or bad-mannered. They can be direct. They can self-enhance, but they're not really going to walk over someone just to get to where they want to. They're self-confident, and they're emphatic to all emotions. So they can feel if you're upset. They will empathize with you. If you're happy, they'll empathize with you. Now, an assertive person will say that, yeah, I understand that I have rights and you have rights. We both have rights here. And then we just the important elements of assertive communication. So on all of this, obviously, we want to aim to try and within a work environment, try and be an assertive person where you're still being empathetic to others, but you're trying to enhance yourself, but you're not doing it by being rude or bad-mannered or being a walkover. So assertive communication is a good choice for a business environment. It helps you to give a clear direction to what you want to do. It gives you a clarity and it helps you to be efficient and effective. And assertiveness, it can be quite good in a way, but in some situations it can be taken in the wrong way as well. In some situations, if you're being quite assertive and you're being stuck on one idea and saying, no, what I'm saying to you is correct, and rightly so, you might be correct about a certain process or a certain way thing is. Other people can sometimes think you're being overbearing or aggressive or a know-it-all. But again, as long as you're being self-aware, you know how to tone it down. So that was 1.4. Does anybody got any comments they'd like to add?
No.
Okay, dokes, let's go on to 1.5. So explain how communication skills can be used to develop a rapport with others. Now, are you all okay with the meaning of rapport, of what it means?
No.
Yeah. So a rapport is when you're developing a relationship with each other. Do you know, like in our first few lessons, we were pretty quiet with each other, weren't we, Victoria? We were very formal. But as we got towards the end of that, we got very jokey and we got very friendly, and you were comfortable speaking to me quite clearly, weren't you?
Yeah.
So within that, it's we've built a relationship. We've worked out a working relationship where we're friendly with each other, and we know what we can and cannot say to each other. So a rapport is when, you know, when you've gone into work and you've got colleagues if you've got friends which are out of your work environment, but at work, then you've got either one that are really friendly with, or some that you'll just say, oh, hi, how are you? How was your day? How was your holiday? You're actually working on building like some interest together. You're working on empathizing with each other. So you're really working on building a relationship. That's what we mean by saying rapport.
Okay.
Now, with somebody that you're see on a daily basis, Victoria, you'll probably end up building a rapport with them quicker. But with somebody that you say a customer or client, you're going to have to work on building a rapport quite quickly with them. Now, there's a few ways that you can actually do this. So when you're building a rapport, you're establishing a connection, and it's more an emotional connection. So things like, how was your day? What are you doing? How's your weekend? Or, you know, you look lovely today. These type of things are nice to help build on. A rapport actually normally starts to be built at the beginning of an acquaintanceship or a working relationship or a friendship, and it can actually last for years. Now, I've got friends that I've physically not seen for 5-6 years now, but because we've still had that strong rapport when we were together or we were working together, we'll still be in contact with each other, speaking on the phone or messaging or Facebook. So these things, they can last a very long time. So building a rapport takes a very long time, but losing it can take seconds. You know, it's something bad feeling. So it can be an issue in how it can be built. It takes time. Yeah.
I thought I knew it.
It's all right. So you can build rapport in different ways. You can do it through your body language, the way you position your body. If you're walking up to someone and you're crossed arm and you're scowling in your face, they're not going to want to talk to you. They probably think you're angry at them. So your eye contact, your body position, your non-verbal signals, you know, your tone of voice. So communication is only 7% of how you build a rapport. 38% is your tone of voice, and 55% is your body language, not bad language. So you can see how it's mixed up. It's more or less holistic, where you're doing everything in and around you, and someone's noticing your movements, your tone, what you're actually saying, and so on. So that's 1.5. We'll make our way on to 1.6. We're almost done. There's only a few more left. So how to make a good phone call. So describe the factors that make an effective telephone call. So I've got some tips here. When you're making a call, just make sure you're prepared for it. You don't have to script it out. Just make sure you know what points you want to talk over. If there's a few points, bullet point it. If there's too much information, you might want to send an email to support your phone call so that no one's having to make big, enormous notes while you're talking. Number 2, be clear about what you want to achieve. So know exactly what the purpose is and then make that call. If you're calling and you're not really sure, there's no point. You'll both be confused. Number 3, now remember, unless you're doing a video call, that other person can't see you, so they can't see you nod their head, they can't see you giving a thumbs up, so you've got to say things verbally. So where you would normally nod your head and go, okay, you know, non-verbally say okay, you'd have to say yes, okay. Now, your tone of voice is quite important as well. So if you sound bored or angry or disinterested, it's not going to go well. They're going to sound like, oh, why is this person even talking to me if they're not bothered? So make sure you got a nice tone of voice, which is polite, but it isn't monotone, that there is some inflection happening in there. Listen carefully. So again, like we said, communicating isn't just about speaking, but you need to listen as well. Speak clearly, be clear, and you don't always have to have long sentences to show what you're talking about. Number 7 is if you don't understand something, just ask. When there's a pause and your person who you're speaking to says something and you don't understand, don't just go ahead and say, oh, I'm not, try and make up conversation. Just clearly ask, what does that word mean, or what does this mean? And it really does clear up your conversation for you. Now, again, don't be tempted to do other things at the time. I can fidget, I can move things about. I'll be flicking a ruler or flipping a pen or doodling, and these things are not good to be doing. So if I can't see you, that doesn't mean you should answer emails or text messages or look at your phone. Try and leave these activities till after, because whether or not they can see you, they can hear when you're distracted. They'll know by your pauses that you're doing something else, or if you're constantly asking, okay, could you repeat yourself, because you weren't paying attention. And the last 2 points in here, summarize your conversation, just so you know exactly what happened, and if somebody did lose interest or attention or got distracted because of if they're at home or at work, background noise, then they know exactly the gist of what happened. And number 10, if you have to leave a voicemail, keep it clear, keep it short. Don't do big, enormous information bits on it. If you've got a lot of information you want to give them, send an email. But otherwise, just tell them who it is that called, why you called, and leave your number, and that's it. So nice and simple. So has anybody got any questions for 1.6?
No. Oh, God, my throat.
Right, so for 1M, for the extension activities, on here, all you've got to do is assess your own listening skills. And you're just going to write down a couple of paragraphs on how you would assess your own listening skills and actually carry it out. So carry out an assessment. So you can get feedback from your family, from your friends, from your colleagues. Ask them, what are my listening skills like? What do I do? Now, at work, my listening skills, my colleagues would say, yes, you listen very well. At home, my family and friends would say, no, you zone out a lot. So depending on what situation you're in, what your environment is.
Sorry. So I know there's going to be a question about this, right?
Yep.
So how would I answer it?
So I would start off with, I have been assessing my own listening skills, and I have conducted feedback from my colleagues, family and friends, and I have come to realize that I would say I can zone out in my personal environment, but in my professional environment, I pay attention and I make eye contact, and I do actually focus on what my customers need. And then you'd go ahead on that. And then you would say, then if you make notes, you'd say, I find making notes are quite effective or ineffective to support my listening skills. So like you said, that when you make notes, Victoria, sometimes you lose what somebody else is doing. So you can say that when I do make notes, I tend to lose track of what is going on. And then you could also put down, I've made a recording of myself and I've listened to what I've been saying, and then I tested to see how much information I actually retained. You know, so it's just all you're doing is you're talking about what your own listening skills are, how good they are, and then if there's any areas you want to address. So if you can say that I zone out on certain topics, just say that I want to make sure that to improve my listening skills, I might make a recording of the conversation, or I might try and split the information up so that I can handle it a lot easier. So just talk about how you would do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
When you listen to your Victoria, when you listen to your recording back, I found myself, especially with online teaching, is that you can pick up quite a lot about yourself than anything else, because we never listen back to ourselves, do we?
When I'm listening back to my recordings on here, and I do make sure that I do listen back, because it really helps the way I teach. And sometimes I'll notice that I speak too fast or that I don't give enough information. So these things do really help you.
Okay, thank you, guys.
And then when you're listening back to yourself, then you can match it with what feedback you get from your colleagues and family and friends as well, and then tally it both up and see if it sort of matches from your notes as well. So that's a really good way of assessing.
Okay, thank you.
Let's go on to, we've got 2 more questions. 3 more, sorry. So 1M2, so the second merit question is describe the key elements of assertive communication and its impact. Now you'll notice we've already described assertive communication, and what it's impacting is, I think it was 1.5 or 1.5. So we talked about that. So just link it, say, as per my responses in, and then link it back to the question that it was. So you just talk about why communication is important, how it can make or break your relationship, how it's critical to your success, and how it reflects on your self-esteem or also reflects on the people that you're talking to. So again, the assertive communication, it does command respect, it projects confidence, and it inspires and influences people. It's respectful, it's direct, it's honest, it's open, it's non-threatening, and it's non-defensive. So this type of person I would want to go to. If I had a problem, you can say that the impact of assertive communication is, if my colleagues or my team members or my staff members actually had an issue, if I practice assertive communication, they will feel comfortable coming to me and discussing any of their needs. They'll feel comfortable approaching me, and they won't be worried about how I will respond to them. So this is some of the impacts of what that is. So again, the impact of assertive communication is that they feel connected to others in a very good, healthy, and effective way. Assertive communications feel control of their lives. They're able to look at any issues or any problems that have happened, and then they can go and address them without panicking. They can say, right, yeah, this problem has come up, but I can take these steps to fix it. They're assertive, they're a good communicator, and they're really good at creating respectful environments. So these type of people are good in a management role. So do you have any questions, Victoria?
No.
Okay, let's go to the last one. And then 1B1 is demonstrate. Oh, it's not the last one. We've got another one after this. So 1D1 is demonstrate effective listening and appropriate questioning skills. Now, this one is a nice one to do, actually. You're not going to be doing a lot of writing. What I want you to do in this section is just create a role play. So are you familiar with what a role play is like?
Yeah, but I don't know if I could write it down.
Yeah, all it is you're going to write Victoria, and then you're going to put So Victoria, hi, how are you? As if you're in a shop. Now I want you to create a role play as if you're dealing with an upset customer. And they've come to you and they've said about something, maybe the item's broken or they've lost the receipt, they're being emotional or angry, and I want you to tell me how you deal with it. So you're going to do something like, it's going to say first, it's like when you read a play in school, you know, when we used to read Macbeth and so on. You have Victoria, and then you'll put your sentence like, hi, how are you? Then angry customer, I'm not good, I want to return this horrible technique. I would say another word, but we're not going to say that. And then you say, oh dear, then you come back and write Victoria and say, oh dear, I'm sorry you feel that way. Please could you explain what the problem is? And then you're going to carry on in that way until you sort out, you find out what the problem was, why they want to return the item, why they're so angry, and then you've given them a solution, you return it, you give them a refund. So because you want to demonstrate listening skills and questioning skills, in your role play, make sure that you have sections where they're giving you information, detailed information, not just one word, like open answered questions, answers. And then make sure you're asking them questions. How are you today? Please, could you explain how this happened? Or why would you want to return this item? Please, can you give me more information? That type of things. And that will cover it.
Okay.
Is that okay? Clear and what?
Yeah.
Now, if you get stuck at this, if you get stuck at this, Victoria, don't carry. No, you carry on.
When I was doing my assessment, there was a couple of questions I was stuck on, and then I went back on the recording, and I wished to ask more questions because when it was down to actually write it down, I didn't know what to do. Yeah. But if that happens again, just email me and I can answer your questions through that, or give me a phone call like you did last week, or whenever it was, and then we can have a quick talk again. So it's not an issue. Don't feel afraid of getting in contact with me. Okay. Because I usually do my assessment like 6 o'clock. I don't want to call you late. Send me a message then. And then if I'm available, I'll give you an answer then. Now, if you do, you're very welcome. If you do get stuck on this section and you find it hard to make a role play, just do the same thing, but as an example. So you can talk about, there was a time when I was working in a shop, and an angry customer came up to me and he was wanted to return something. So I asked him a few questions to change the same thing, rather than saying Victoria, angry customer, Victoria, angry customer. Just change it into a couple of paragraphs where you're going into detail about what happened and what questions you asked and how he answered you. Yeah. Now, last one, this will get answered in 2 different ways. So 1D2 is communicate clearly and assertively using appropriate methods. Now, what you'll notice here is it says communicate. So it's not you talking about how you would communicate clearly and assertively. It's about you showing me that you're doing it. Now, in your assignment, when we do get to it in a few days, there's going to be, on assignment brief day, there will be a section where you're making a PowerPoint for task 4 or 5, if I remember correctly. Now, that is going to actually answer this. But in case you don't make a PowerPoint, the easiest way to answer it is just have an example of some communication that is done via email. Now, the best way to do this is create an email to a customer or copy and paste one off the internet. And like I've put an example over here. So this just says following our telephone conversation and so on here. And then just put down a couple of sentences explaining what this is. And that will cover this. Okay. Yeah. So it's quite, and the merit questions or the distinction questions are quite nice on this, on learning outcome 1. Where is my, let's get rid of this writing there. So in total, we've looked at quite a lot of things today. We looked at the importance of clear communication and the impact of unclear communication, elements of effective listening, the purpose of different types of questioning, the different communication styles,
how communication can be used to build a relationship or a rapport with others, how to make a telephone call effective. We looked at how to assess your own listening skills, and then the elements of assertive communication and what its impact is. And then finally, the last two, we looked at effective listening and appropriate questioning skills, where you'd either include an example of a time you dealt with an upset customer, or you'd include an example of a role play between you and a customer. And then finally, communicate clearly and assertively using appropriate methods, where your PowerPoint for one of the tasks will cover this, but also you can put in an example of an email, and that will also cover it. So I'll turn the recording off.